Hi, welcome back to another episode on my channel. And today we're going to talk about love and tarot and oracle cards. And we're going to focus on love that has been offered and then rejected, specifically between two people. This might land more intensely for a female who is in the situation where she has two choices between two male partners. It can apply to any partnership where there is a party who has a choice to make between two people who they are romantically in love with. And one perhaps is the true partner, do I say soulmate? Are there such things? There might be. That might be a soulmate versus another option that looks good on paper. And I felt called to this because I know that the situation has come up in my life where I was in that situation and I wish I had the tarot. I had the tarot, but I didn't pull out the cards. I was going on what my heart was telling me. I needed a tarot reading. I think today is the day that this book comes out, republished. It's The Other Man by Michael Bergin. And if you've been following the series Love Story, I would highly recommend that you purchase it's been reissued, republished, I guess that's the word. This is from 2004, the original first edition, and I've marked pages so that I can, follow dates up. So the story that happened in this book is, I believe, absolutely 100% true. I'll just say it. I don't think this was a book that he wrote to make money. I think it was a book for him to get a lot off of his heart and to set the story straight. If you remember, after the plane crash that killed Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy, her sister Lauren Bessette, and JFK Jr., there was a lot that came out about losing, the American Prince and a Vanity Fair on Carolyn. And actually, it was all about their supposed charmed life together, which I think this book, even though there's a lot of other books out there that tell stories, this one is I think hits the nerve on what was going on, especially from the perspective of Michael Bergin, which, after reading it as a woman who was in that situation, where I had two choices. One was looked good on paper, like JFK Jr. would. Looked like a great choice because America's Prince and the sexiest man alive in 1988, versus Michael Bergin, who was getting his career started. He was all the things. He was the Calvin Klein underwear guy. He was on his way to an acting career. He was on Baywatch. And I'll read a little bit from this and then talk about the cards that I pulled, because I wanted to know at the end of this relationship what it was that was going on, because I know for myself what was going on when I was in that situation after reading this book sounded exactly right on. Just hit the nail on the head. This book comes from his heart. I truly believe that this was not about him making any money. And now that we look at, all the things that have made money off of this situation since 1999, when they sadly all perished, this book is, I think, the go-to to get the side of, okay, this was also going on. There was a lot of criticism when this book first came out. And unfortunately, it took a lot of hits because, just, this is a guy just trying to make a buck off of this death. And actually, no. There were many, many other books. And actually, there was, if you recall, in 1999, there was a website that popped up you pay a certain amount, and someone had obtained the wedding video. And this was before it became a thing on YouTube where you could find the wedding video. You'd pay a fee, and then they would show you the wedding video. So someone had the wedding video, and someone was making lots of money back in 1999 off of that wedding video. So talking about that this was a money-making thing is, just a non-starter for me. There was so much going on. So I pulled cards, and I of course got these cards were shuffled so many times, and I came up with the Eight of Swords for this particular time that I'm going to read to you. That is towards the end of the book, and then it will all make sense. This is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and it shows a woman who is loosely bound, blindfolded, and seemingly surrounded by, obviously, swords. If you know a little bit about tarot, you kind of know a little bit about this card. But this is incredibly interesting that this card came up. When I asked what was going on after I read this chapter that I'll read now. This is towards the end of the book. And again, I suggest, if you're interested in knowing the full story, the full dynamic of what was going on between all the parties, this is a key piece to it all. So it was the spring of 1998, and Gordon's mother had passed away. Gordon Henderson, who was Carolyn's best friend, did attend the wedding, and probably carries secrets to this day that we will never know about. And I think it was interesting that I pulled from the archetype deck on him the unseen, which kind of will become self-explanatory. He was her unseen friend, her friend who still has not talked, who has kept her secrets. But in any case, he lost his mother in the spring of 1998. And this is from the perspective of Michael Bergin. So he called Michael with the sad news and asked if he'd meet him in Seattle for the service. And he said Carolyn is coming with him. So Michael Bergin flew up that Friday and met them at the airport. And he hugged Gordon first. And he noted that Gordon looked like hell. And he'd been very close to his mother, so he understood that Gordon was taking it in a very difficult way, obviously. He then hugged Carolyn, and it struck Michael Bergin that the last time that he saw the two of them at the airport in Los Angeles, he had hugged Carolyn first. Carolyn saw that I was wearing the St. Christopher's medal she'd given me, and she flipped it over and noticed that the X and the O that she had etched in the back had faded a little. "I'll fix that for you," she said. We left the terminal and took a cab to the little bed and breakfast that was holding 2 rooms for us. There was a door between the 2 rooms, one of which had 2 beds. Carolyn didn't say anything. She just looked at me, and it was understood. She and I were going to take the room with 2 beds. Gordon glanced at his watch. Some of his friends and relatives actually were waiting at a downtown bar, and they were eager to go meet the friends for drinks and to share stories. When they got back later, Carolyn and, according to the book, the way it reads, Carolyn and I slipped into bed and made love. We were always tender with each other, but on this particular night, she was unusually tender, as if I were so delicate that I might break under her touch. I felt so in love with her, I thought I would burst, and it killed me. And that's Michael Bergin speaking. The next day, we went to the service in a small chapel and then over to the house where Gordon's mother had lived out her final years. They spent some time there, and Carolyn decided that she wanted to leave. And she wanted to go back to the bed and breakfast. When they got back to their rooms, they made love again. We fell asleep, clinging to each other. Hours later, I heard Gordon stumbling up the stairs into bed. And in the morning, Carolyn seemed very lethargic. "You look unhappy," Michael Bergin said to her. "What can I do?" I smiled at her, and she said, "Save me." She said, "Save me." I thought she had said this to amuse me, but she didn't smile back. We had breakfast and returned to the room. Gordon was just waking up. He had said he had to go over to his mother's house again for a little while, and he added, "When I get back, we'll get ready for Fresno." Fresno? And then Gordon says, "Did I forget to tell you? We're burying her in Fresno." I wish I'd known that. I have a round-trip ticket and I can't change it. I didn't want to go to Fresno. Frankly, I'd come there for Gordon in his time of need, and I'd also come to see Carolyn. I'd be lying if I had said otherwise. But a third leg of the trip seemed out of the question. Carolyn was very upset. "You have to come to Fresno." She insisted. She was insisting. And after Gordon left, she reached for the phone and she said, "I'm going to call the airlines. Give me your ticket. I'll change it. I'll pay for it." And Michael Bergin responded back, "I can't. I have to get back to LA for a guest spot on Access Hollywood." "When?" "Tomorrow, Monday." And Carolyn said, "Cancel it." "Not possible. It's locked and I need this gig." Carolyn looked like she was near panic, but I held firm. I decided to sweat out some of the alcohol from my system from the evening before. Basically, they had been out. So he put on his running shoes and went out for a jog. When he came back from the run, he asked for a cab to be called and to be ready within about an hour. He went upstairs and Carolyn was lying in bed, propped up on pillows, waiting for him. She didn't look well. She was gaunt and withdrawn. And I'm paraphrasing here. And I, again, encourage you to get the book because it is, it really does expand upon the story and gives you a perspective that if you are interested in what was going on at that time, just opens up a whole new, it opens your eyes to so much. So Carolyn's laying in bed and she's not looking well. She's looking gaunt, drawn, she's looking ill. And he asks, Michael Bergin asks her, "Are you okay?" "What do you think?" she said. "It was spooky. I got in the shower, then dressed, and began to pack my bags." She watched. "I looked in your thing," she said. I turned to face her. She said, "I looked in your book, and it's not true. Access Hollywood isn't until Tuesday. You lied to me. You could come to Fresno if you wanted." "Why did you lie to me?" I didn't answer, and she started to cry. "Don't you understand?" she said. "I love you. I want to be with you." "Carolyn," I said, "don't say that. You know it's not true. You're just upset." "But it is," she insisted, crying harder. She was getting hysterical. "I can't go on. I don't want to go on." "Stop," I said. "Please, Michael, please forgive me." "For what?" I said. She began to bawl uncontrollably, huge, gasping sobs, so powerful she could barely catch her breath. "For the way I've treated you, for the way I've hurt you. I know how much I've hurt you, but you have to help me, Michael. We have to do this." "We?" Jesus, suddenly it was we? "We are not doing anything, Carolyn," I said. I was starting to get scared. I was watching her come apart at the seams, and I didn't know what to do. I had always been there for Carolyn. If she called me because she needed to talk, I listened. If she wanted me for one night, I went. If she needed company at a family party, I was there. If she wanted to get together in a seedy motel room, I got in my car and I met her, even when it went against my better judgment. But this was different. She was asking for something I couldn't deliver and didn't want to deliver. She was asking me to give her the strength to leave her husband. "I don't think you're thinking clearly," I said. "I don't think you've thought this through." "Don't say that," she shouted. "I've thought about nothing else." She seemed on the verge of physical and mental collapse. I love you. I want to be with you. Now I was terrified. I was actually thinking I couldn't even begin to process all the things. Carolyn, I said, pull yourself together. This isn't about me. This is about you. This is a problem I can't fix. This is about you, she protested. We can do this. I've always loved you, but if you think you're going to get up and walk out on him, you're not thinking very clearly. This is not the type of situation that people will forget. This is a scandal. This scandal will follow us for the rest of our lives. Who cares, she said. Who cares about a scandal? I do, I said, and I couldn't believe she was ready to get out of her marriage. I couldn't believe she believed it. I don't want a scandal, and I don't want the responsibility for a scandal. It will be way bigger than you can imagine. My words seemed to be coming from someone else's mouth. I loved Carolyn, and over the years, I had shown, sometimes to my detriment, that I would do anything for her. But this was way too much. I was unwilling to be part of this. Please, Michael, she begged. She was frantically worrying the skin on her arm. No, I said. That was my last word to Carolyn. No. I grabbed my bag and went downstairs. The cab was already there, thankfully, and I hopped in and told the driver to take off. As he pulled away, Carolyn came running outside. She kept calling to Michael, and Michael didn't want to deal with this anymore, and he told the driver just to pull away, just go. Michael, she screamed after the cab. He turned around and looked out, and she had drifted into the middle of the street, and she was just standing there looking at the car driving away. And her head was tilted slightly to the left, and her arms were hanging limply at her sides. She looked as if she barely had the energy to hold herself up. The cab turned the corner, and she disappeared from view. And I believe that's the last time that he saw her. The cards that I pulled, I think I mentioned, are from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. That is an easy deck, especially if you're just starting out in tarot, to understand. The images are very helpful in understanding what the card means. And the Winter Seer's Animal Oracle seemed appropriate, especially when I pulled the Doe. And from the deck of archetypes, I pulled the Unseen, which I think can be looked at a couple of ways. Unseen, I think, is Gordon Henderson in some ways, because he's the unseen person who knew and still probably to this day holds the secrets and holds Carolyn's secrets. And I think that that is his job or position in all of this. He protected her in life, and he protected her as a good friend in death. He has not really spoken out. He has not said anything about any of the books. From my research, the card that we've talked about a little bit seems so Carolyn for that period of time. She is essentially and more metaphorically trapped, I'm sure she felt, in this situation. We have the swords around her. Again, the bindings are loose. She can take the blindfold off. She can walk away. And that kind of ties into the doe that I pulled from the animal, the Winter Seer Animal Companion. And I think it was very profound that this card connects to the feminine energy, and when you let that guide your decisions and reactions, it can be very helpful. Try a gentle approach with yourself and with others. Force is not always the best way to accomplish your goals. And I think this card speaks to the situation where she's, forcing the issue with Michael Bergin in early 1998 about trying to leave the marriage. And we can only know what we know from the books that are out and from the stories that have been told. I find this book, and I have no, other than reading it and finding it to be very spot on, because of having gone through something very similar in my own life and having to make that decision. It just spoke, I felt volumes of truth. And I recommend it. It is out again now, as I said, and that would be a great thing to pick up. And if you enjoyed Love Story and you want to, and it was enjoyable. I've watched it twice. However, is everything in Love Story? No. You can piece together the story actually from doing research and reading if you're interested in the backstory of the 90s and what was going on at that time. And this is, I think, a key essential piece. It's The Other Man, and it has some beautiful pictures in it, and on the back I think is one of the most tender, loving photos, and I'm glad that was captured. And maybe her marriage was coming together towards the end. We'll never really know. Only she and JFK Jr. knew what was going on. Maybe she had come to accept things that were just going to be. And again, they took that with them to the other side. And we may never know. I have my Egyptian musk here because if you know, you know. That was her scent. It is absolutely fabulous. You can find it anywhere. It will stay with you all day. It is a beautiful oil and a beautiful scent. I highly recommend it. Anyone can wear this, and it isn't overpowering. And I think I understand why she chose that, because it was understated, just like she was. Well, thank you very much for indulging me this tarot reading of the situation with this love. Not just call it a triangle, because that's what it seems like it was. And thank you if you enjoyed the video, or you have a comment or a thought about the situation. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. And if you like the video and the information, hit like, and certainly for more videos, subscribe to the channel. We'll do more readings, some like this, regarding situations that are either in the past and taking a look at them, or in the future. And let me know in the comments what you'd like to see. And until next time, be blessed, and thank you for being here.